I was standing in cold, brown water up to my knees, in the middle of what used to be my wetland and what Brianna Lake, president of the Maple Hollow HOA, proudly called her community access road. She said it would connect the neighborhood, bring safety and convenience. Instead, it had connected every storm drain straight into my backyard, turned my land into a reservoir, and her perfect little subdivision into a target. When I bought these 60 acres on the edge of Maple Hollow Reserve, I wasn't chasing neighbors or newsletters. I wanted space, silence, frogs louder than traffic, wind moving through cattails like breathing. I'm Ethan Cole, environmental consultant, 25 years of telling people what not to build. Roads through migration paths, homes in flood zones, driveways blocking drainage. I thought I'd seen every way humans could insult a landscape. Then I met Brianna. Back when I first moved in, the community felt harmless. Retired teachers, nurses, small business owners, folks who brought pies on holidays. My wetland formed the southern border, a green, wild buffer nobody paid much attention to. Most assumed anything beyond their fences belonged to the HOA. It didn't, but ignorance was peaceful until Brianna got elected. She swept into that first meeting like a campaign ad, perfect blonde bob, bright blazer, confident laugh. Her background was real estate marketing, which is a fancy way of saying she knew how to sell a dream and ignore the fine print. She dimmed the lights, fired up a slideshow of glossy renderings, and said, "Picture this, an elegant connector road through that low and used area behind Ethan's property, linking our north gate straight to the highway." The room murmured, "Faster commute. Better for emergency vehicles." Words people love to hear. I heard something else. "You're about to build a dam in a floodplain." When the meeting ended, I caught her outside. "Ms. Lake," I said, keeping my voice as level as I could, "that low and used area is a federally protected wetland. It absorbs stormwater, filters runoff, and keeps your basements from turning into indoor pools. You touch it, you're breaking federal law and inviting a disaster." She gave me that perfect, empty smile. "I appreciate your passion, Ethan, but I've seen the satellite images. It's just soggy ground. A few culverts and gravel will fix it right up." "It's not soggy ground," I said. "It's a hydrologic system. It's supposed to hold water, not shove it downhill into your neighbor's living rooms." Her smile didn't move. "Maybe you and your frogs can keep a corner of it, but the community has to move forward." Forward, in her mind, meant straight through my land. For a while after that, things were quiet enough that I let myself hope the red tape would save us. Permits, environmental reviews, agencies that care about things like endangered species and flood maps. Then the letter started. Notice of violation. The first one read, "Vegetation exceeds acceptable height." The next one, "Standing water may pose mosquito risk." Then, "Failure to maintain appearance." The fine stacked, $100, $250, $500, repeat offense. I sat at my kitchen table and actually laughed. How do you maintain a wetland, trim the cattails with scissors, vacuum the frogs? But after the third notice, the joke stopped being funny. I realized Brianna wasn't just annoyed by my land. She was building a paper trail, painting my wetland as a nuisance she could solve. So I did what I do best. I documented. I responded with maps, sections of the Clean Water Act, floodplain charts, my professional reports, the Army Corps designation labeling the area as protected retention land. I might as well have mailed her coloring books. A few weeks later, there was a special infrastructure meeting. The community room was packed. Free donuts always help turnout. Brianna stood at the front like a CEO unveiling a big product launch. "We all know the south exit is dangerous," she said. "Traffic, blind turns, delays for emergency vehicles. Our solution is simple, a new road through that underused area at our southern edge." Underused. Her favorite word for, "I can't sell it yet." I stood. "That land is not HOA property. It's my private wetland, and it's under federal protection." She looked at me with practiced sympathy. "With respect, Ethan, our records show an easement through that area." "There is no easement," I said. "I checked the county recorder myself." She shrugged. "Maybe your paperwork is out of date. Ours is more current." I held up my folder. "Deed, survey, wetland certification. You pave it, you're not just wrong. You're breaking the law." She let the room snicker first, then said sweetly, No one wants to hurt your little pond. We're talking about progress. Let's not make this personal. It is personal, I replied, when you turn my wetland into your storm sewer. Her eyes hardened, just for a moment. Then she lifted the gavel. Let's put it to a vote. Hands rose, neighbors dreaming of higher property values and shorter commutes. In minutes, the motion passed. Brianna turned to me, triumphant. See? Democracy in action. You just voted to fight physics, I said. Physics never loses. She smiled. Then the law and physics can take it up with each other. The next red flag came in orange. Survey stakes stabbed into the wetland like neon weeds. My neighbor Frank Doyle showed up, cap in his hands. Crew was out there, he said. Told me this whole area got rezoned. Pulled your markers like they were trash. I walked out, saw the new lines push deeper into my land, and felt something in me go very still. If Brianna wants a road, I said, she's going to meet paperwork with teeth. But paperwork still moves slower than bulldozers. The morning the machines arrived, the air itself sounded wrong. Metal grinding against wet earth, diesel engines snarling where frogs usually sang. When I stepped onto my porch and saw 4 bulldozers crawling across the marsh, dump trucks bringing loads of gravel, and an excavator slicing through cattails, my stomach dropped. At the center stood Brianna, white hard hat labeled HOA Infrastructure Lead, sunglasses on like she was at a ribbon cutting. I slogged through the mud. You're trespassing on my property, I shouted. Shut it down. A foreman pointed at her. Talk to the boss, sir. She turned, smiling like we'd run into each other at brunch. We're just beginning grading, Ethan. You were notified. She handed me a folded sheet. HOA letterhead, no county seal, no permit number, just a lot of buzzwords, and her signature. This isn't a permit, I said. This is a wish list. Maybe to you, she replied. But the community voted. You can't stop progress. You don't have jurisdiction here, I said. This is my land. This is a wetland. This is a crime scene in slow motion. Then sue me, she said, and turned away. So I did. I called Claire Donovan, my environmental lawyer friend, sent her footage, maps, GPS data. She told me to file for an injunction, complain to every agency with a fax machine, keep filming. I called the sheriff too. Deputy Mark Ellison came out, looked at Brianna's fake paperwork, looked at my deed, then decided it was a civil issue and drove away. By the end of the week, a third of the wetland was gone. The natural outflow channel was buried. The asphalt rose above the surrounding land like a black levee. I walked the edge in the dark, flashlight beam shaking over fresh gravel, and wrote in my notebook, they didn't build a road. They built a dam. The first big storm rolled in like it had been personally offended. Forecasts called it historic rainfall. I checked every small drainage pipe I'd installed, stacked sandbags, cleared branches. Frank stood beside me, staring at the road. That thing's not letting anything through, he muttered. That's the problem, I said. Online, Brianna was writing. Don't worry, the new road has advanced drainage. Trust the process. By advanced drainage, she meant 2 culverts her husband Ryan jammed in above natural water level. Water doesn't drain uphill, but marketing doesn't care. As the rain fell harder, my gauges climbed. 6 inches above normal. Then a foot. On my side of the road, the wetland swelled into a deep, brown mirror. On the other side, Maple Hollow Reserve, neat lawns, white siding, set almost exactly 2 feet lower. At some point that night, Deputy Ellison knocked again. HOA wants to know if you can open more drainage to help them. They're flooding up north. They built a wall on my land, I said. Now they want me to be the relief valve. He shifted, uncomfortable. It could save some houses. If I cut channels now, I said, that whole load hits at once. When that asphalt gives way, it's going to break like a dam. It'll be a wave, not a trickle. Tell Brianna to evacuate everyone south of that road. Now. He hesitated, then nodded and left in the driving rain. The power went out around 10. By lightning flashes, I watched water lap at the top of the road. Small streams started spilling over. I set my camera on a tripod, pointed at the embankment, and spoke into the lens. Day 41 since construction. Every warning ignored. Water at critical height. This is not a prediction anymore. This is physics waiting for a crack. The crack came with a sound I'll never forget. A groan, then a tearing roar. The asphalt split open, water punched through, ripping the road apart like wet cardboard. Everything that wetland had been forced to hold exploded forward, down toward Maple Hollow Reserve. Streetlights disappeared into brown currents. Cars bobbed. Fences snapped. Somewhere, a white SUV spun and vanished. By morning, the storm had moved on. The silence that followed was worse. From my porch, I saw a river where the road used to be. Maple Hollow lay broken, houses half submerged, yards stripped bare, chunks of asphalt lodged in trees. Emergency boats weaved between roofs. Helicopters circled overhead. On one roofline, clinging to a soaked porch column, was Brianna Lake. No hard hat, no sunglasses, just a small, terrified woman watching her empire dissolve. When she saw me on a higher roof helping a neighbor, she screamed my name. "Ethan, please." I wanted to walk away. I really did. Instead, I tied a rope to a chimney, threw it across the current, and hauled her in while the water tried to tear both of us loose. When she collapsed beside me, shaking, we sat in silence, staring at what her progress had done. "I warned you," I said. She stared at the wreckage. "I thought the engineers." "Your husband is a contractor," I snapped. "He pours driveways. He doesn't rewrite hydrology." Tears cut tracks through the mud on her face. "I didn't think it would be this bad." "That's the thing about nature," I said quietly. "It doesn't care what you think." In the weeks that followed, the story exploded. News vans, drones, headlines. HOA road blamed for historic flood. County engineers confirmed what I'd written in my notebook. The access road acted like a barrier, trapped water, then failed catastrophically. Federal agents showed up with clipboards. They took my footage, my logs, my saved HOA posts, my meeting recordings where Brianna joked about my mosquito pit. The verdict was brutal: unauthorized construction, falsified maps, destruction of protected wetlands, obstruction of natural flood channels. The Maple Hollow HOA was hit with massive fines. Their insurance refused to pay. Homeowners sued. The state filed charges against Brianna and Ryan. In court, she looked like a ghost of the woman from those PowerPoints. She got probation, hundreds of hours of community service, more than $1 million in restitution, and a 10-year ban from ever running anything like an HOA again. Some people thought it was too light. Some thought it was too heavy. I just sat there and exhaled. There's no sentence that rebuilds a flooded nursery. The destroyed road was torn out, and, in a twist even nature might have appreciated, the county turned that scar into an official wetland restoration zone. They hired me to help design it: retention basins, native plants, a low, wooden boardwalk instead of a raised asphalt wall. The old HOA dissolved. A new community group formed, smaller, humbler, led by a biologist who opened the first meeting by saying, "We're not here to fight the land. We're here to learn from it." Months later, I got a letter from Brianna, written in shaky pen. She was doing community service at a city garden, finally, understanding stewardship. I didn't write back. Some apologies don't need an audience. On the 1-year anniversary of the flood, we stood at the edge of the restored marsh with flowers in our hands. The water was calm. Frogs called. The land looked like it was breathing again. When it was my turn to speak, I said, "A year ago, people called this place useless, wasted space to pave over. But when the storm came, this was the only thing that tried to save us." Nature doesn't take revenge. It just responds. The question is whether we listen before it has to scream. So now I'll ask you the same thing I asked myself. Was what happened to Brianna and the Maple Hollow HOA real justice? Or did too many innocent people pay the price for her arrogance? Where do you draw the line between progress and vandalism with a smile? Tell me in the comments. And if you believe nature deserves a voice, and that karma doesn't care about HOA titles, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more real HOA stories where concrete meets consequence.